A desolate wasteland, damp, dark, filled with the vilest excuses for people you've ever seen. London, a hellscape among hellscapes. Then the bombs dropped and somehow made it even worse. Now it's got radiation. And the French? Join me as I try to survive these hostile slums and build up my gang along the way, all without taking damage. Can I beat Fallout London's Vagabond questline on 1 HP? If you saw my last video, then you know that I accidentally did the optional Vagabond questline during my Fallout London 1 HP run. But because it's a completely optional questline, and it added so much time to the run, I decided to make a dedicated video to it because a lot of interesting stuff happened that I really just couldn't fit into the other video. Unsurprisingly, I'm on 1 HP for the entire time. I accomplished this by using a console command to set my max HP to 1 so that any damage I take throughout this entire playthrough will insta-kill me. This will force me to beat every mission without taking damage. I'ma skim over the character creation since I went over it in my last video. Just know that I'm a VATS-oriented sleepwalker. While chilling in my jacuzzi, my future employers accidentally freed me from my watery, though oddly comfortable prison. After committing some mild property damage, I met up with my accidental saviors. Turns out they're part of a local gang called the Vagabonds. Why are they called the Vagabonds? Not sure, because they don't appear to be nomadic hobos. Regardless, their leader is a bloke named Gaunt, and he invited me to join his little gang. Having nothing better to do, I accepted. On our way back to the hideout, we came across some other Vagabonds who had been ambushed by a rival gang. Turns out the Vagabonds are currently in a bit of a gang war with the Isle of Dogs Syndicate. Look man, the Brits have never been great in naming things. I mean, just look at the town of Langfairpol
Gwinjilgujurich Werndrabolanta Gogagok.
In spite of the fact that their name is quite stupid, the dogs are actually winning this war and pose an existential threat to the Vagabonds and me by association. I performed a little medical malpractice on my fellow Vagabond, then arrived at our lair, the Swan and Meyer pub, which was taking heavy fire from the dogs. I assisted in this fight as much as you would expect from a man who dies if you fart in his general direction, and claimed a 32 caliber pistol and a double-barrel shotgun for my fallen foes. Now in possession of more guns than the average Englishman will ever see in his life, I received my first mission: track down the fleeing dog before she could escape and call for backup. I returned to the pub and started mingling with my fellow Vagabonds. There's actually quite a few named NPCs here, but most of them don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, so I won't bore you with them. One who did matter though is Blind Nelson. He runs our intelligence network and received some bad news. The dogs were gonna be holding an execution later that day. And even worse, one of the victims was a close friend of Yvette, the only woman in our gang. Yvette's already set out on a suicidal mission to rescue her. I couldn't let this become a sausage party, so I rushed off to render some aid. The path to reach Yvette was a nightmare to traverse. It took me into the sewers where underwater ghouls lurked and exposed wires zapped. My frail constitution did not like either of those. It also didn't help that bullets are freaking expensive in this game, and I'm more broke than a crack addict. After much trial and error, I lucked out and was able to push forward deeper into the tunnels. Just when things were starting to go smoothly, somebody flushed the toilets on the other end, causing a tsunami of poo water, and turds weren't the only thing that splashed my way. 3 high-level ghouls rose from the feces to ruin my day. My pistol and shoddy, which were extremely low on ammo, barely tickled them. Fortunately, I remembered that I had picked up a 303 sniper rifle earlier and had exactly 3 bullets. Finally out of the poop tunnels, I located Yvette, and we hatched a rescue plan. I'd distract the guards while Yvette snuck inside and freed her friend. Now, seeing as I had 1 HP and about 2 bullets to my name, this went about as well for me as Mike Tyson's last fight went for him. I was there, I got a few licks in, but was mostly a disappointment. Eventually, I swallowed my pride and let Yvette do the distracting while I released the hostage. We returned to the pub, and Gaunt, impressed by my antics, offered me a chance to become an official Vagabond. I just need to kill an Isle of Dogs enforcer and bring back his lapel pin as proof. This would normally be pretty easy, as I just came from Isle of Dogs territory. But if you know me, you know I'm kind of retarded. I don't know why, but my brain didn't connect the dots that where Yvette and I just were was Isle of Dogs territory. So I just started to wander around the map looking for enforcers. On my travels, I picked up a stray pooch, shot a rat, and talked to the only Indian man in London. Funny how his accent is still pretty strong despite 200 years of living in England. After talking with the crazy hermit, my dementia finally subsided just long enough for me to realize where the dogs are located. I eventually found my enforcer, and luckily for me, I had acquired a decent stash of 303 ammo through less than legal means. Not that that made things easy. Aimbot is a killer in this game. I claimed my pin and officially joined the gang just in time for some real action. After years of taking it up the rear, Gaunt is finally launching a counter-offensive against the dogs. Our first mission, break our boys out of jail. The dogs had converted an old ship into a sad wannabe Alcatraz. Gaunt wants me to get in, free all our men, and sink the boat on our way out. Unsurprisingly, the jail entrance is heavily guarded. I didn't really feel like dealing with all that, so I just snuck around until I found another way onto the boat. Once on board, I systematically killed everyone on the deck. Then I entered the entryway that I was supposed to come through from the rear, catching the goons within off guard. Strangely though, my quest didn't update at all. I'd killed all the guards that I could find, but the cell doors wouldn't open, the computers weren't working, and nobody was talking to me. After scouring the deck and coming up with nothing, I looked up someone else's playthrough of this mission and realized my error. By entering the boat from the side instead of the entrance, I ended up killing everyone out of order, which confused and broke the game. I was forced to reload a save and redid the whole thing. The proper way this time. Fortunately, it worked, and I was able to free the hostages without too much difficulty. Sadly, I didn't get to see the ship go boom. There were a bunch of trigger-happy dogs on the outside of the entrance, so I decided to just go back out onto the deck, where it was safe, and fast travel back to the pub. Luckily, the game still recognized the ship as being exploded, and that quest was completed. Now that we've got some extra helping hands, we need to fill those hands with guns. And it just so happens the dogs have a weapons depot nearby. What luck. Getting to the building was easy enough, but once inside, I was greeted by a veritable army of goons. Charging in guns blazing is never an option on 1 HP, so I sent my dog in instead. A few well-placed grenades cleared out most of the guards, after which I moved room to room, clearing the rest of the building. Once cleared, I let my fellow vagabonds in the back door, stole all the guns, and blew the place sky high, along with a few of my men. Oh well, it's just like my hero says, you can't bake a pie without losing a dozen men. Upon returning to the pub, Gaunt tried to debrief me. Fortunately, I don't wear briefs. Then he told me to go rob a train. Not much of note happened on this mission. I snuck around a lot, stealth killed a bunch, then nicked the train. Typical Tuesday. Now that I'd single-handedly revitalized the Vagabonds, it was time to start destroying the Isle of Dogs, and Gaunt set his sights on the upper management. While the top dog, one Thomas Black, hasn't left his bunker in years, his 3 generals tend to frolic about the wasteland, making them much easier targets. The first general on my hit list was a dude named Lockheed. Seeing as he was a renowned man of culture, finding him was a cakewalk, but just when I was about to put one between his eyes, Winston burst through the door. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention my boy Winnie here. Long story short, Lockheed sent Winnie's family to the big dentist office in the sky, and Winnie wants revenge. I figured it didn't really matter who killed Lockheed, as long as he ended up dead, so I let him have at it and moved on to my next target. Sinclair is the dog's top enforcer, known for her cunning and cruelty. To my great surprise, she saw me coming a mile away. I fell right into her trap. We then proceeded to play an intense game of cat and mouse, except the cats are a little retarded and the mouse has a freaking gun. The last general on my list was the most difficult to get to. He managed to finagle his way into Westminster, which is locked up tighter than a nun's caboose. Much like a ditty party, if you ain't on the list, you ain't getting in. I was forced to put this mission on hold while I progressed the main story, as that's the only way you can get inside. During this time, I collected a few more guns as well as a woman, although she did cost me my dog, making her a significant downgrade. After finally gaining admittance to Westminster, Locating my target was actually quite easy, but the problem is, he's hanging out in a high-class gentleman's club that disallows guns. I sat there rubbing all my remaining brain cells together and came up with a brilliant strategy to get around this limiting restriction. I simply walked past the receptionist instead of talking to her, so she never had a chance to take my guns. Man, the new Vegas casino security puts this place to shame. I set that dirty dog on fire, then filled him full of lead in full view of all the snobs. He must not have been very popular because nobody gave a crap. I returned to the pub expecting a hero's welcome, but Gaunt was furious. Turns out that Winnie got a little carried away with Lockheed. He must have brought a meat grinder or something with him, because nobody can identify the body. The whole point of these killings was to send a message to the dogs that the Vagabonds mean business. But now people think that Lockheed just skipped town or something. And of course, I'm the one who got blamed for this. Not only that, the last guy whose name escapes me didn't register in the game as being dead for some reason, even though I definitely killed him, you saw it. My best guess is that because I didn't talk to him before killing him, the game thought I chose the peaceful option of letting him run away. So the only assassination that Gaunt was actually pleased with was Sinclair's, and he about bit my head off. Just when I was feeling down, I got a letter from Blind Melson. You remember that ghoul from forever ago? Well, he invited me up to his room for an extra special mission. He even signed it with kisses. Ho 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 ho! I bolted upstairs ready for some action, but Nelson's a freaking tease. He meant an actual mission. What the frick were those kisses for then? Anyways, Nelson stumbled across some crucial information. Thomas Black, the leader of the dogs, is making a rare appearance outside of his bunker. He's gonna be on the metro, making this my best shot at killing him. Eager to redeem myself in Gaunt's eyes, I set out immediately. Once on board, I slowly moved my way up the train, clearing each car as I went. Despite the closed quarters, there was plenty of cover, so this wasn't too difficult to get through. Finally, I entered Black's private car and came face to face with Nelson. What the frick you doing here, man? He proceeded to dump some lore on me that I'll try to boil down for you guys. Nelson had a deal with Black that as long as the Vagabonds never got too powerful, the dogs wouldn't completely wipe them out. But then I came along and ruined the deal by being just too freaking awesome at my job. Silver lining though, Black is willing to forgive and forget if I also start working for him, which is why Nelson lured me out here to begin with. Nelson led me up to Black, and the idea of blowing his brains out the moment I saw him briefly crossed my mind, until I noticed the 20 plus goons who seemed to be surrounding him at all times. So I decided to accept Black's offer, which was basically that I would become the new head of the Vagabonds and essentially become Black's vassal. I returned to Gaunt to report the good news of his early retirement. Surprisingly, he did not take that well. Challenged me to a duel, he did. A duel in a small confined space with no cover. Yeah, ain't no way I'm doing that on 1 HP. I reloaded a save from before I accepted Black's deal, and started looking for a way to kill him. If I rejected Black's offer outright, all the goons in the room would turn hostile and obliterate me. Fortunately, Fallout 4 allows you to just walk away from conversations. This allowed me to move about freely while the dogs were all still neutral. I then used my silenced .32 pistol and my silenced sniper rifle to stealth kill every single one of them. After an eternity and many a death, it was finally just Black and me. I waltzed right up, blasted him in the face, and proceeded to have my butt handed to me for the next 15 minutes. Bro is built like a brick outhouse and took a dump all over me. After much trial and error, I put that dirty dog down for good. I hopped on the radio to let Gaunt know the good news, and he's finally proud of me, guys. I'm so happy. All that's left to do now is kill off the remaining dogs, listen to Gaunt give a speech, and I beat the Vagabond questline on 1 HP. Thanks for watching. If you liked the vid, feel free to leave it a thumbs up or maybe even a subscribe. What do you guys think of this whole 1 HP run challenge? Would you like me to try this on other games or nah, skip it? I've also been streaming lately, Stalker 2, so if you're interested in watching me struggle bust my way through that, be sure to drop in time to time. So yeah, just stay tuned and watch those notifications. Another reason you should hit the bell. Any hoosers, that's all I've got for today. Y'all have a good night. Captain out. Hey, check out my girlfriend. What's up?
Stop running around like a cock.
Your face is a cock.